Hi friends, it's your art teacher, Miss Barnett, and this week's lesson called Lost Worlds, we've been exploring the ideas that we really don't know what the dinosaurs world looked like. We have to go on information provided to us from special scientists called paleoscientists, as well as artists called paleo artists. So today we're going to be creating a moody landscape for our dinosaur. So I want you to think, when we think of the word mood, you need to think about feeling or expression. So what kind of feeling do you want your place to have, your setting? Do you want it to be happy and sunny and light, or do you want it to be dark and gloomy? Maybe it's a rainy day. Think about that in your brain. And then think about what kind of environment, habitat will it be in? Is it under the water? Is it in the mountains? Is it in the desert? Is it in a swamp or the forest? So we need to pick a habitat for our dinosaurs to live in as well. So we are going to be creating, I want you to also be thinking about what we've learned in our last two lessons. So we've learned about, in our last lesson, how to create an expression for our dinosaur's face. So maybe we can include that into our work today. Think about the setting and how your animal, your dinosaur will be feeling in that setting. And we all remember, we also learned about repetition and creating texture with line, as well as creating our dinosaurs with texture using rubbings. So you could try either of those ideas today. You might want to think back to those techniques as we're working. What you're going to need today to complete today's assignment. You're going to want some scratch paper and a pencil to do some sketching on so we can get our ideas down before we get started. You're going to want a piece of colored construction paper. Now you want to be very mindful about which color you pick, because we're going to do a technique today where we'll use glue to create our lines, and our color of our paper will be what shows through for our lines. So make sure you're thinking about that when you pick your color. You will need some glue, and then to create our picture you could either use oil pastels, crayons, or today I'll be using chalk pastels. Chalk pastels are kind of like sidewalk chalk. So if you have sidewalk chalk, you could use that too for this project. So gather your materials, meet me back here, and we'll get started. All right, kiddos, so artists always plan and practice before we get started. So I want to ask you some questions that you should answer before we begin working. So is your artwork going to be horizontal or is it going to be vertical? Which scene from nature will you show? What mood will you create? And what lines and shapes will you use to create that mood? And then also, what color and color combinations will help you create that mood? So let's practice. So we're going to, before we begin creating our picture, we can take our paper and do some thumbnailing. So remember, a thumbnail is an artist's way that we plan. It's just 4 small rectangles, and then we draw a rough idea, not a lot of details inside. So I'm going to do some thumbnailing and you can watch. Here we go. Okay, kiddos, so I drew 4 different ideas. I drew a jungle volcano scene, a swampy scene, a desert scene, and a forest scene. I think I'm going to do this jungle volcano. So now that I've picked out my drawing, I'm going to think about which scene from nature am I going to show. I'm going to show a jungle volcano. What mood am I going to create? I'm going to create like a scary kind of mood. And then I'm going to use lots of thick lines and angles to create that mood. And I'm going to use dark colors and lots of reds and oranges for my picture. Okay, so now that we've done the practice, now we're going to start working. So I'm going to take my paper and I'm going to take my white glue and I'm going to start drawing my lines and shapes on with the white glue. let's get started. All right, kiddos, so I've applied my glue and drawn with the glue. I've applied it pretty thick, and I'm going to let this dry before I continue working on my project. Let yours dry too. Okay, kiddos, so I left my glue here to dry overnight, and it's dry now. So now I'm going to take my oil pastels and start adding color in between these glue lines. I want you to think about what kind of mood you're trying to create in your picture. So if it's dark and gloomy, kind of a sad kind of mood, you're going to use darker colors. If you want something light, lively, and happy, brighter colors. Also, make sure you've placed your dinosaurs in an environment. Mine is a swamp. Maybe you picked a field or some woods or a jungle, wherever you want. It's your choice. And I want you to think about, how do your lines and shapes help show your mood? So these are going to be like very like hanging, kind of drapey leaves and vines that are going to be very dark and kind of falling over the scene. So it's going to be kind of like you're like very like ooh, that kind of mood. And then of course, think about your colors. Now let's get started on that, and you can watch me work. Here we go. Okay, guys, let's take a moment and step back from our work, and let's see if we need to add any more details. So I think here I'm going to add some more lava coming down off of this volcano, and I'm going to add some color down here to the ground a little bit more. Look at your work and see what else you need to do. Maybe you need to add some more contrasting colors so the background stands out from the animals a little bit more. Make those choices, and let's finish working. Here we go. All right, kiddos, here's my completed Lost World project. I hope you have just as much fun experimenting with glue and pastels, chalk, or crayons to create your very own dinosaur habitat. Have a great time, and I'll talk to you later. Bye, friends.